Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Sifu Messiah. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links can be found in the description for everything we discuss, so let's get on with it. I'd just like to say a quick thank you to all patrons, as you are really helping make these Star Citizen Sunday videos possible. If you are interested in becoming a patron, head over to our Patreon page using the link in the description. Thank you. So this week it'll be another two-parter. In part 1, we will hear 10 answers from the chairman. Around the Verse episode 55 and the Merlin Q&A. Part 2 will feature the Star Marine update, and we will also give away that Merlin. So, kicking off this week, we have 10 for the Chairman with Chris Roberts. It's not an hour and a half long like last week's, which is good. I think I've put all the questions in, so let's get on with it. What will the in-game banking structure be like? Do we get in-game statements? And how do we wire credits to other citizens? The answer is, we don't need in-game statements. This is the future. There is an electronic balance with the MobiGlass app, which will be branded by some futuristic bank. When it comes to wiring of assets and money, there will be some level of transfer, but they'll need to regulate them somehow. So you'll need things like documentation, and things like wiring fees will apply as well. They are still figuring it out though, so it's got to have some tweaks to it so that it won't get abused by people. It will be based on a real system or something that we are already comfortable with, but when it comes to things like transferring a ship, like trading a ship in, the ship will need to be physically taken to the owner. So depending on where you are, if you're in Stanton and it needs to go to Terra, then either you or someone else will need to fly that ship from Stanton to Terra, or even stick it on a carrier-based ship and have it transported there. So, next question is, how will Windows 10 affect Arena Commander or Star Marine? Now, this was released on Wednesday. He said it's still early days and they're testing now and finding a couple of issues, but he did say it will be compatible from the beginning. So, technically, it should be alright now. It should be usable now. Have a go, see if it works. So, question number 3 is, how is virtual reality coming along? And he mentions that CryEngine does support this. Obviously, they've got some new patches coming in. I think it's 3.7 or 3.7, 3.8 patches coming in. But he said it's not as simple as just installing it into the original CryEngine because they have highly modified it for Star Citizen. So it does take quite a long time to get it included. He says after Gamescom there should be a new patch, maybe the end of August, which will include these updates, but they will want to do a bit of custom stuff with them rather than just leaving it as the sort of vanilla update. And he did say that there are some more important things to get done before they even approach or tackle that situation. So fingers crossed, end of August. Next question, quite a cool question, is will there be a hunting profession where you perhaps travel to the wilderness worlds and hunt for dangerous alien beasts? And Chris thinks that this is a cool idea. He says longer term when they've got some procedural created planets to explore, then maybe. But he did say it'll be kind of cool to explore, maybe find some minerals and take out some aliens, hunt or capture them. He says what they're doing is they're building the world and then building it out from there, so they'll be adding features as they go. Long term, he says they would definitely like to see it, and it shouldn't be too difficult either. So next question is, will your ship carry any history to that particular hull number, and if destroyed, will that history sort of die with it? And he says that you can obviously name your ship, and they want you to have a reason to look after your ship. So it may be associated with some kills that it's accomplished, maybe if you take out Dread Pirate Roberts. But in terms of looking after your ship, he said it's not going to be like Arena Commander like we know it now, where people will use all the missiles, kill themselves, and then respawn again just to get the missiles back. If you die in space or if you get injured, you will wake up in hospital, and then you'll have to collect the insurance on your ship, wait for your ship, or collect the ship itself. You will not have the weapons and some of the upgrades that you've bought aftermarket extras. You'll have to repurchase them. So technically you're going to have, it's not going to be as easy as just quickly jumping back into the battle with in Arena Commander is there. You're going to have to really take care of your ship. Obviously the Crucible will allow you to keep your ship patched up and living, but yeah, you need to take care of your ship, make sure it doesn't get blown up every 2 minutes, and then eventually hopefully there'll be sort of histories associated with it. So moving on, how will the spoken interaction in Squadron 42 be like? Now this is quite an important question, and there was quite a decent answer as well. So they say they're trying something different, a lot different to what we are used to. It will be point of view locked, so it won't be like in a lot of games where you go to a third person cutscene or you are locked into the screen with that person's face, and you won't have like a select wheel of A, B, C, D. He said it should feel fluid like in real life, and body language and your actions will affect the conversation as well. So if you catch the eye of someone while walking down a street or in a bar, they will probably spark up a conversation with you. If you disengage eye contact while they're talking, then they may show annoyance and think that you're not listening, and then may say something as to why you are not listening, turn back if you like. And then if you do turn back, they'll continue speaking. He did say that if someone is boring you, then you can use objects around in the local environment. Maybe, for example, he didn't say it's going to be this, but he said as an example, maybe if you see a glass glass of water on the side. You can pick that up, take a drink, or you can eventually throw it in their face and cause real annoyance. And obviously if you handle the conversation badly, then the NPC may not actually want to speak to you again, or they may be a bit rude or upset with you. He also says that they will not likely repeat themselves, so if you are not listening or paying attention, then you will miss out on what you need to know, which is good but also kind of shifty because I have a very short attention span. But in way of how you respond, it will be something in the lines of inner thought, so these things will be floating around your head. He related it to BBC's Sherlock, and I have not seen it myself, and I suppose a lot of the Americans or people who are not in the UK will not have seen it either. But your thoughts float around your head, and as you hover over one, it'll give you a generalised response as to what it's going to sound like, and then if you click that, that will be your response. He did say it's going to be very immersive, and I am very excited to try it out. Anyway, let's move on. Will the total number of players in an instance change depending on the situation? For example, if no ships are present and you are planet-side, would this allow for more characters? And he said it all depends. They are working on this now. It would be location sort of networking dependent. FPS should allow up to 32 characters as it is, and obviously they are just characters. As the question asks, ships will require a lot more work, and so it sounds like you will be able to have more people planet-side than you can have in space with ships. They are working on it now to try and get many more in, and obviously we know of things like instances where if you get to, say, 50, for example, 50 people in one instance, then it'll spill over to the next instance and start filling up that 50 slot instance as well. You will be in the same area, but you will not see the same people in that case. Unless you are obviously in a group, then you'll be instanced together. Tony Zorevec is aiming for more players in the social module than they currently can handle, so fingers crossed they're going to get some good work done and we'll be able to have hundreds of people in one instance and have those huge battles that everyone wants. So next question is, what designates the difference between a long-range ship and a short-range ship? Is it quantum travel, jump drives, or fuel capacity? And he says yes, pretty much all of that. Most ships will have quantum travel, but ships like the Merlin or other snub-nosed fighters will not. And obviously this will need to travel with the constellation, so you cannot use the Merlin to travel from one moon to the next. It will take you hours and hours. Some ships like the Hornets or Auroras may have quantum travel but not jump capabilities or jump drives. You will, or you should be able to install jump drives as an aftermarket upgrade, or you could obviously hitch a ride with a bigger ship. The majority of the big ships will most likely have quantum travel and jump drives, but unlike, say, the Carrack, for instance, you will not have the fuel to go extended duration flights. So if you are wanting to be an explorer, you may need to upgrade the fuel capacity on certain ships if they are not specified as exploration ships, whereas the Carrack will have huge fuel tanks for long duration flights. So there we go. So the final question is, what's the benefits of merging the first and third person camera animations? And he says that it's more to do with just interaction. You will be playing and interacting with other people, real people, and visibly seeing them interact with items and objects will be great and quite important as well, because you'll be able to see what they're doing. Games like Armour, you can see them go up to a crate, they will hover over the crate, but their body won't do anything while you are choosing the weapons and so forth. Whereas in Star Citizen, if you go over to a crate, you will actually physically, your arms will physically be doing stuff. If you're turning off maybe the gravity generator, then you'll see your arm moving and turning it off. It's quite important to see what other people are doing, and obviously no other game has really built it to that quality yet, or that amount of fidelity. Most FPS games are just sort of arms sticking out of the camera with a crosshair in the middle, and your body doesn't do anything, or you can't see anyone else doing anything. So pretty cool. Anyway, that was a 10 for the chairman. Tell me your thoughts on everything. So on around the verse 55 now, this is the Empire Report.
On the next Empire Report, tonight, the UEE mourns the loss of a young advocacy agent. When Casper Bryant reported for his first day of work, he never thought it would also be his last. How did a normal stop-and-scan procedure go so horribly wrong? Plus an update on the 4 system-wide manhunt.
With more and more companies moving into Aramis, are planet-owned businesses being driven out? Donald Joseph visits with local owners who say that they're being pushed off their own planet.
Today, Maverick trillionaire Silas Kerner made his annual appearance at New Austin's Spacecraft and Avionics Show. Is he pushing spaceflight into the future, or into a dangerously fast direction? All that and more on the next Empire Report at 2200 SET.
Over to Sandy and Ben, who said that the 1.1.5 version 2 hotfix brought more changes, and there were more hotfixes coming as they try to balance out things even further. They had team photos for all the different studios. I'll put them up now while we're talking about it. And they also say with the run up to Gamescom, which is pretty much in a couple of days, everyone is feeling excited. They say the offices are all electric. So on to news from around the verse, starting with Santa Monica CIG. They say there's lots of work going on. They're currently working on the glaive. They're getting the character concepts constantly going on. Also, they say they are hammering away for the Gamescom demo. They said it will blow our minds. Very excited for that. They're also adapting the AI to fly larger ships, so they make sure it handles correctly, because it is not like flying a small single-seater ship. There is less banking, less pitching. So maybe we might see some of that in Gamescom. Probably not. We'll have to wait and see. Over to Ulphonic. They are cleaning up the netcode, and they say they're making good strides to reduce the lag. He also says that the netcode problem was pretty much fixed, which is great news because this is one of the biggest blockers that we currently see. They've also mocked up some hit indicators. Chris Roberts had his feedback as well. It sounds like it may be on the hood, similar to what we see in Battlefield, but maybe more on your hood rather than just blood splattering in your eyes. They've also been fixing a ton of bugs. They say they are not putting any more features in, they're just getting all bugs fixed. So CIG in Austin, they say the concept team are working on a style guide for Microtech. They say it'll be quite fancy mixed with the not quite so fancy. They're coming up with a clothing line for the Terra Casual fashion line, and they are working on the Nix market. Now this will be mobile carts. I think there was a picture of it, I'll try and find it again. Sort of like you see at farmers markets. It'll be bustling and a lot different to what you would generally see maybe in Artcore. There won't be like shops as such, there'll be just carts that you can use your augmented reality. Very cool. In Foundry 42, they say they're doing a lot of changes from the community's feedback about the bugs and balancing with 1.1.5. Also, it was obviously the first time they have used WWise, and it is 1 year in the making, this new audio system, and they're very happy to see people making videos of it, showing it off, and it does sound very cool. Anyway, after that we had a balanced chat. They just wanted to address mainly the time to kill that it took for your first engagement with a ship to it actually being destroyed. It used to be about 3 to 10 seconds, which was way too fast. Many a time in Arena Commander I had been shot quite quickly and just blown to pieces in a matter of seconds. They say they want it to be more around the 1 to 1.5 minute range, but also if you have two really ace pilots against each other, it should last a long time, you know, not sort of 8 to 9 minutes, which is pretty accurate as to what it should be, because, you know, they're both good at avoiding, they're both good at hitting, so it should take a lot longer than just an ace versus a novice. One of the bonus things about the time to kill being upped is that it gives you time to take wear and tear, and also if you choose to, you can disengage and try and escape, whereas before if you got locked on and shot at, there wasn't much time for you to be aware of this and get out of there. You may not know, or you may know, that the weapons have been updated as well. They have a stronger damage potential. They've also raised the health on the shields, but the recharge rate they felt was too fast, so that's been slowed down. So it's now difficult to take out shields, but you get a bigger window in order once you've taken the shields down to start penetrating with your bullets. This will make battles a lot better, a lot more technical, and more meaningful as well, which I think it was very much needed within Arena Commander itself. Anyway, from there, James Pugh was interviewing a chap called Josh Coons, who is a 3D artist. He is the guy that's working on the Constellation with Chris Smith. He is currently working on the exterior. They started the remodel of the Constellation back in February, so it's been going on for quite a while now. And it was just because of things like the Retaliator. When the Retaliator was released, the quality bar for ships was raised quite considerably, and obviously the Constellation came out very early on in the campaign, and it needed to be brought up to the level of the Retaliator. So they've gone back, they've readdressed everything, the interior and the exterior, and they're getting it to the level it should be. RSI as a company, Robert Space Industries as a company, will have much more of an identity, and you can really tell them apart from other ship manufacturers. Josh was also responsible for the buggy skins we saw, the paint jobs he put on them, and also the helmet interiors that we saw recently. He actually worked on the full Outlaw and the full Marine helmet interiors for the FPS. So after that little chat, we went over to Lisa Ohanian, who is doing Shipshape, and today she was speaking about the Vanguard, which is the deep space fighter. Very cool ship, 2-man ship, very strong. It said it's got lots of room for fuel and ammunition, but it's not as maneuverable as, say, the Hornet or other similar sized fighters. The difference is it can travel a whole star system without refueling. They are currently fleshing out the interior for it, and the seats for the co-pilot and the pilot slide into place. They're much different to what we've seen in other ships. The operator seat at the top is in charge of weapons and your sort of sensor suites. And also the escape pod that has been worked on is pretty cool. It's quite heavily armoured. It fits 2 people. It has a radar system, hibernation system, life support system, and it can even spoof a kill. So it can make out as though when your ship gets blown up and you escape via the escape pods, it can give the impression that you have been killed, so the enemy will less likely come looking for you. In the back of the ship there is crawl space to access the engines. You can access your coolers, power plants and all other components, and the bloke working on it, I think it was Germac, is very excited to move on to the variants pretty soon. So once we came back to Sandy and Ben, they said there's no Around the Verse next week due to Gamescom, but they will be live streaming Gamescom, which is going to be great to see, and it shouldn't be at a ridiculous time. The most valuable post goes to Goose for his 300i feedback thread about what needs to change, because they are currently, or they're about to start revamping the 300 series now, like what they did with the Constellation, to get it back up to par with the rest of the fleet. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. They're going to run a contest on Around the Verse. They're looking for concept artists, and very similar to the Next Great Starship, they're wanting people to come up with character designs. Now there will be more information later on, but the winner will get an Adris Corvette, which is a pretty nifty prize if you ask me. So the sneak peek this week is an outfit. It looks like it could be the Terra casual wear, which is what we heard in news from Around the Verse. We shall have to wait and see. Anyway, that was it for Around the Verse. Tell me your thoughts. So with the release of the P-52 Merlin, there was the inevitable Q&A. So starting with the first question, obviously, can it carry any cargo at all, or does it have a place to put, say, a rifle for when you may want to go down to a space station and assault? And they say the Merlin won't have any cargo space, but they do want you to be able to carry personal weapons, so maybe things like sidearms or SMGs at the very least will fit. The second question is, will the engines be upgradable to a racing specification? We say yes, there will be room to tune and grow the Merlin. It won't be sold maxed out, so you won't have the best engines, the best thrusters, but you will be able to fully upgrade it and get it to a racing spec to compete with the M50 or the 350R. So, does the Merlin have a slipstream drive? I think that means quantum. I know it has no jump drive, they say, but can you race across a solar system with it? And they say no, snubcrafts are designed with little range from the parent ship. So if you are to leave the Constellation in a snub fighter, you will have to return to that in order to travel longer distances. So next question is, will we ever be able to dock another similar sized fighter to a Constellation? Is the docking facility specifically designed for the Merlin? And they say that the collar on the back of the Constellation is specifically designed for the Merlin. No other ship can dock with that. There will be a possibility in the future for other collar options, but he says that's a long way out and they would need to design some snub ships separately. Obviously, some ships will be able to dock to the side docking ports or the doors that you see on the side of the ship. It's just that not the snub fighters, not the Merlin's docking pod. So, moving on. Can the Merlin launch from a typical planet surface to orbit? And they say yes, it will be able to take off and land from planets. The Merlin, the Archimedes, the 85X and the Argo, and even the unnamed ship from the Carrack can do that too. So you can, if it is just you on board your Constellation, you don't want to have to go down to the planet side in the Connie, you can obviously jump into your snub fighter and take that down instead, if it's just a quick run that you're wanting to do. So, next question is, will we see any variants? Now, they mentioned the Archimedes from the Phoenix, but other variants of the P-52 are not officially planned. But he did say that changes planned for the Archimedes would help set up a few more possibilities. So, later on down the line, we may see some variants. So, next question on is, how much customization will there be for the P-52? Can we change the colour to coordinate with the Constellation and change its equipment? So, for instance, weapons, shields, etc. And they say absolutely, you can change and tune the P-52 pretty much just like any other ship. While not right away, you will be able to change things like the power plant, the cooler, the avionics, the radar, for other modules in the small, light sort of size class. The weapons on the wing of the P-52 are interchangeable, however the centerline Gatling gun is locked in, but you will have tuning options for that. You just cannot replace it with another gun, which is good to know. Next question is, might it include a docking attachment to dock to other ships? And it says, not on the Merlin itself, but other ships can obtain the appropriate equipment to enable this, so perhaps you can buy the equipment that it docks in the Constellation for other ships. He did say that something to consider is that on larger ships, the snubs will deploy from a platform, not a collar, so the Merlin can easily be carried by a Carrack, for instance, where you can take off from its hangar bay. So, can you list all the current ships planned to either carry the snub or have a future module planned to? And they say it's just what's currently announced at the moment. The Constellation excluding the Taurus, the 890 Jump, the Carrack, the Idris and the Javelin. But there will be definitely more in the future, but they cannot make those decisions yet. They come later. They will have to be determined when they create the ships. So, next question is, will there be a CCU or an upgrade to the Archimedes for both Merlin or Constellation owners? And they say yes, you will have the ability when they release the Archimedes to upgrade to that instead of the P-52 Merlin. So the next person asks that the Merlin is not really competitive to any of the races just yet. Will this change? And they say that it's not fully tuned yet, it still needs work, and down the road it will be tunable to help tailor it to its performance for racing, so you can swap out the engines, the thrusters, probably to build up the top speed, or if they include top speed, or just the manoeuvrability, so it can compete with an M50 or a 350R. So next question is, how long will it likely take a skilled pilot to dock the Merlin with a Constellation? Would it be practical to do it under fire, and will there be an auto-dock feature? They say the full docking and deployment cycle is in development now, since the Constellation is needing to be flight ready, so they don't really have the answers yet. There will be some level of auto assist with the docking, but they don't know exactly until it's finished and they can give it a try. Second to last question is, does the Merlin get both refueled and reloaded while docked? And they say yes, but you will need to have the spare rounds on the parent ship within its cargo hold in order for it to rearm, and I expect you'll need either a surplus supply of fuel or your own fuel will be depleted if you are refueling the Merlin. So last question is, I noticed the vertical and lateral strafing was faster than any other ship, and also the Gs were far greater than a human can realistically handle. Sort of why is this? It says it's the first implementation of the ship. They are continuing to work on the ship to make sure the handling is correct and the forces don't remain in the realms of impossibility. So still early days for it. Anyway, that was the Q&A. I assume it's just the one as it was not titled Number 1. Let's move on. So, don't forget, this is only part 1 of this week's Star Citizen Sunday. Part 2 shall follow tomorrow, bringing the Star Marine update. Also, everything that has happened over the past week. Plus, we are giving that Merlin away. So, yet again, we have come to the end of the show. I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers and a massive thank you to all our patrons. You are truly helping our channel grow. If you are interested or able to help us out in way of a monthly donation from as little as $1 to any amount you deem fit, check out our Patreon page in the description. This really helps our channel to create more videos, better quality videos, and it allows us to get better hardware, better software, plus it allows us to spend more time on creating the videos. Don't forget to subscribe, comment if you have anything to say, show me the love by hitting the like button, and share it with all your friends and enemies. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in next week's show.